The training hall smelled like recycled air and overconfidence. Instructor Vrekthar stood at the center of the combat simulation chamber, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled cadets with what could only be described as profound disappointment. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted his weight, a sound that usually preceded someone's ego getting shattered. "Humans," he said, letting the word hang in the air like a bad smell. 23 cycles I have trained warriors from 17 different species. Korathi battle priests, Delphine shock troops, even the crystalline. No, scratch that. Even the mineral-based quarks, who do not possess what you would call a spine. And yet, somehow, you lot are the most tragically unprepared specimens to ever disgrace my facility. Cadet Marcus Webb stood in the front row, jaw tight, trying very hard not to let his irritation show. Next to him, his squadmate Priya Kalur had her arms crossed, one eyebrow raised in that particular way that suggested she was mentally calculating how many regulations she would break if she threw something at their instructor. "Sir, with respect," Marcus began. "Oh, good," Vrekthar interrupted, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among his kind. "The ape wants to speak. Please, Cadet Webb, enlighten me. Tell me why your species, which only achieved faster than light travel 30 of your years ago, believes it belongs in the Galactic Defense Initiative." "We passed the entrance exams, sir. You passed the minimum requirements. There is a difference, a rather substantial one, I might add." Vrekthar gestured toward the simulation pods that lined the walls. "The exams test for basic competency. What I do here is determine whether you will survive your first real combat scenario or whether you will become an unfortunate statistic that I will have to document in my report." Another cadet, Tommy Park, cleared his throat. "Maybe if you actually trained us instead of just insulting us." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Vrekthar's head swiveled toward Tommy with mechanical precision. "Ah, yes, Cadet Park. Your psychological profile indicates elevated levels of what humans call bravery, but what I call insufficient self-preservation instinct. Tell me, have you ever faced a Krell hunting pack? Have you ever had to fight in zero gravity while your ship vents atmosphere? Have you watched half your squad die because someone made a stupid, human mistake?" Tommy said nothing. "I thought not." Vrekthar turned back to address the full group. "Your species has potential. I will grant you that. You are adaptable, resilient. Your chemical composition suggests you evolved on a death world, which explains your frankly ridiculous pain tolerance. But potential means nothing if you lack discipline, if you lack tactical awareness, if you charge into situations with nothing but what you call guts and determination." Priya finally spoke up. "So what do you want from us, sir?" "I want you to fail," Vrekthar said simply. "I want you to fail here, in simulation, where failure costs nothing but pride. Because if you fail out there, in actual combat, you will die. And worse, you will get others killed. Soldiers from species who have been doing this for centuries. Warriors who deserve better than to babysit a bunch of enthusiastic primates who think that passion is a substitute for skill." He walked toward the nearest simulation pod, running one of his 6 limbs along its smooth surface. "Today, you will enter a scenario designed for intermediate-level combat units. Not advanced, not elite, intermediate. It simulates a standard boarding action against Krell raiders. Your objective is simple: survive for 20 minutes and eliminate the hostiles. The pass rate for this scenario among established military species is approximately 73%. "And for humans?" Marcus asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. "Oh, we have no data on human performance. You are the first of your kind to attempt GDI training." Vrekthar's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "How exciting for you! Think of yourselves as pioneers. Or guinea pigs. The terms are somewhat interchangeable from my perspective." The 12 human cadets exchanged glances. They had trained together for 6 months, endured countless drills, survived Vrekthar's contempt through sheer stubbornness. They were not about to back down now. "We will proceed in teams of 4, Vrekthar continued. "Webb, Kalur, Park, and—" He consulted his datapad. "Chen." "Wait, I said not to use that name." "Fine, Chang. You 4 will go first. The rest will observe and, hopefully, learn something before their turn comes." Marcus led his team toward the pods. The simulation gear was impressive. Full neural interface, haptic feedback, for the works. Once they were inside, they would not be able to distinguish the simulation from reality until it ended. Pain would feel real. Fear would feel real. Death would feel very, very real, even if it was only temporary. "Remember your training," Priya muttered as they climbed into their respective pods. "Stay together. Watch your angles. Don't do anything stupid." "Where's the fun in that?" Tommy grinned, but there was tension behind it. Lisa Chang, the quietest member of their squad, simply nodded and checked her virtual equipment one last time. The pod sealed with a hiss of hydraulics. Darkness surrounded Marcus for a moment, and then the simulation initialized. He stood on the deck of a ship, the walls made of some dark composite material, illuminated by strips of harsh white light. His helmet display showed his team's positions, all green, all active. His weapon felt solid in his hands, a standard GDI pulse rifle, and he could smell the recycled air of the ship's life support system. "Comms check," he said. "Here," Priya responded immediately. "Good to go," Tommy added. "Ready, Lisa?" "Confirmed." "Your mission parameters are as follows." Vrekthar's voice echoed through their helmets, smug and detached. "You are aboard the cargo vessel Distant Hope. Krell raiders have breached the hull and are spreading through the ship. Eliminate all hostiles. Try not to die. The scenario begins in 3, 2, 1. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, something screamed. Marcus felt his heart rate spike. Intellectually, he knew this was not real. Emotionally, his body was not interested in that distinction. Standard sweep formation. Priya, take point. Tommy, rear guard. Lisa, stay center with me. Move out. They advanced down the corridor, weapons raised. The ship groaned around them, and Marcus could hear the distinct sound of claws on metal, getting closer. The Krell were not subtle hunters. The first one came around the corner fast, all teeth and armored hide, moving on 6 legs like some nightmare fusion of reptile and insect. Priya fired without hesitation. 3 shots center mass, and the creature went down, spraying dark blue blood across the floor. "Contact front!" she called out. 2 more appeared behind the first. Tommy swung around to cover their rear as Marcus and Priya engaged the new threats. Lisa moved into a support position, her shots precise and economical. Within seconds, 3 Krell bodies littered the corridor. "Not bad," Marcus breathed. "Keep moving." They pressed forward, encountering resistance at every junction. The Krell were relentless, but they were also predictable. They attacked in straight lines, relied on speed and numbers rather than tactics. For trained soldiers, even human soldiers, they were manageable threats. 10 minutes in, they had cleared 2 decks and eliminated at least 20 hostiles. "This isn't so bad," Tommy said, reloading his weapon. "I thought this was supposed to be challenging." "Don't," Priya warned. "Do not say things like that." "What?" "I'm just saying. Maybe Vrekthar was overselling the difficulty. These things are tough, sure, but they're not exactly." The explosion cut him off. The wall to their left simply ceased to exist, torn apart by some kind of breaching charge, and suddenly they were facing not Krell raiders, but something else entirely. Something bigger. Something that moved with calculated intelligence, rather than animal fury. The creature stood at least 8 feet tall, covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light. Its weapon, if that was what the massive cannon attached to its arm could be called, began to glow with ominous red energy. "Scatter!" Marcus shouted, diving right as the corridor where he had been standing erupted in plasma fire. The heat was incredible, and his suit's alarms screamed warnings about temperature spikes and structural damage. Tommy took a hit to his left leg and went down hard, cursing in pain. Lisa grabbed him and dragged him behind cover, while Priya and Marcus laid down suppressing fire. Their shots seemed to barely scratch the creature's armor. "What the hell is that?" Priya yelled over the sound of weapons fire. "Not Krell," Marcus replied. "Since when do Krell have powered armor and energy weapons?" "Since never." Vrekthar's voice crackled over their comms, and Marcus could swear he heard amusement in it. "Congratulations, cadets. The simulation has adapted. You were performing above expected parameters, so the difficulty has automatically scaled upward. This is a feature, not a bug. Do try to survive." "You have got to be kidding me!" Tommy shouted from behind his cover, trying to stop the bleeding in his leg with a medical pack. The armored creature advanced methodically, firing controlled bursts that forced them to stay pinned down. Marcus's mind raced. Standard tactics were not going to work here. They needed something different, something unexpected, something human. "Lisa, can you hit the ceiling support above it?" he asked quickly. Lisa peered out, assessed the angle, and nodded. "Maybe, if I don't get vaporized first. Priya, Tommy, when she shoots, we unload everything we've got at its joints. The armor has to have weak points." "And if it doesn't?" Priya asked. "Then we get to die in a simulation instead of real life, which was kind of the whole point, right?" Priya laughed, slightly unhinged. "You know what? Fair enough. On my mark," Marcus counted down. 3, 2, 1. Mark! Lisa leaned out and fired a 3-round burst at the ceiling. The shots were perfect, hitting the support beam exactly where it connected to the wall. The metal groaned and began to buckle. The armored creature looked up, just for a second, and that was all the opening they needed. Marcus and Priya opened fire at its knee joints, where the armor had to be thinner to allow for movement. Tommy, even wounded, added his shots from his position on the floor. The sustained fire caused something to rupture, and sparks flew from the creature's left leg. It staggered, and that was when the ceiling came down. Tons of metal and composite material crashed onto the creature, burying it in debris. The corridor fell silent, except for the sound of settling rubble and the team's heavy breathing. "Did we get it?" Tommy asked. As if in answer, the pile of debris exploded outward. The creature rose from the wreckage, damaged but still functional, and its weapon began charging again. "Oh, come on!" Priya shouted. Marcus made a split-second decision. "Lisa, get Tommy to the emergency airlock. We passed 3 corridors back. Priya, with me. We are going to do something incredibly stupid." "Finally," Priya said. "I was wondering when we'd get to that part." They charged the creature together, firing as they ran, not trying to take it down, but simply to distract it, to keep its attention on them. The creature tracked them with its weapon, but Marcus and Priya were moving erratically, using every bit of cover, never staying in one place long enough to provide a clear target. They reached melee range, which was absolutely the last place anyone sane wanted to be, and Marcus slid under the creature's legs, while Priya vaulted onto its back. His rifle was useless at this range, so he dropped it and grabbed a thermal grenade from his belt. Priya was tearing at the armor plating, trying to find any kind of access point, any vulnerability. The creature reached back to grab her, and in that moment, Marcus found what he was looking for. The under armor, near what might have been its hip joint, had a gap. Not a big one, maybe 2 inches, but it was enough. He armed the grenade, shoved it into the gap, and rolled away. "Priya, move, move, move!" She launched herself off the creature's back, just as the grenade detonated. The explosion was contained by the armor, which meant all that force had nowhere to go but through the creature's body. It collapsed, finally, truly dead. Marcus lay on his back, chest heaving, staring at the ceiling. "Did we just win?" Brekthar's voice informed them. "And you are down 1 squad member with another injured. I would not celebrate prematurely." Right on cue, the sound of many claws on metal echoed through the corridors. Lots of claws, an alarming number of claws. "You have got to be kidding me," Marcus repeated, pulling himself to his feet. "Priya, can you move?" "Can I move?" he asks. She stood up, checking her ammo count. "I am barely warmed up. Let's go find our teammates and figure out how we survived the next 11 minutes. They ran back toward the airlock, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. Lisa had gotten Tommy to relative safety, and the four of them regrouped behind a makeshift barricade of cargo containers. "So," Tommy said, applying another medical pack to his leg, "anyone else think Vrekthar is enjoying this a little too much?" "Definitely," Lisa agreed. "What's the play, boss?" Priya asked Marcus. Marcus looked at his team, battered but unbroken, and felt something shift in his chest. Vrekthar had designed this scenario to break them, to prove humans were not ready. But maybe being ready was not about having all the answers. Maybe it was about adapting, about finding solutions where none should exist, about being too stubborn to know when to quit. "The play is simple," he said. "We survive. We adapt. We win. Because that's what humans do." The Krell horde rounded the corner, at least 30 of them, with more of those armored creatures mixed in. It was an impossible situation. The kind of scenario designed to teach cadets about acceptable losses and tactical retreats. Marcus smiled. "Let's show these aliens how humans handle impossible." The next 11 minutes were going to be very interesting. Outside the simulation pods, Instructor Vrekthar watched the biometric displays with growing fascination. Human heart rates should have been spiking into panic zones by now. Instead, they had settled into what his species called combat rhythm, that dangerous state where fear transforms into something else entirely, something useful. "Predictable species break under pressure," he muttered to himself, adjusting the observation screens. "Interesting species adapt. Humans, though, they seem to do neither. They simply refuse to acknowledge the pressure exists." Back inside the simulation, Marcus was making calculations that would have horrified any tactical instructor from a rational species. The cargo bay they were defending had exactly 4 entry points, 30+ hostiles, limited ammunition, 1 wounded teammate. The math was simple. They were dead. Unless they changed the equation. "Tommy, how's your engineering knowledge?" Marcus asked, firing controlled bursts at the advancing Krell. "I can hotwire a shuttle and reprogram a coffee maker." "Why?" Tommy grunted, adding his own fire from his prone position. "Good enough. See those coolant pipes running along the ceiling? The bright blue ones?" Lisa caught on first. "Oh no. Marcus, that's ship infrastructure. We are supposed to be saving this vessel, not destroying it. The mission says, eliminate all hostiles and survive. It doesn't specify the ship has to remain intact." Marcus grinned, ejecting an empty magazine. "Besides, this is a simulation. What's the worst that happens? We get yelled at by an alien who already hates us?" Priya laughed, while taking down 2 Krell with precision shots. "I like where this is going. Tommy, can you rupture those pipes on command? Give me 3 minutes and something to throw at them. Those pipes are pressurized with cryogenic coolant. If they rupture, this entire section will flash freeze in about 10 seconds. "We don't have 3 minutes, Lisa pointed out, her ammunition counter dropping into red. "We have maybe 45 seconds before they overrun our position." Marcus looked at the pipes, then at the advancing horde, then at the emergency bulkhead controls near the airlock. A plan formed in his mind, the kind of plan that required perfect timing and more luck than any sane person should rely on. New strategy. "Tommy, forget subtle. Just shoot the pipes. All of them. Priya, Lisa, when that coolant releases, we sprint for the airlock. We seal the bulkhead behind us and let physics do the rest." "And if the bulkhead doesn't close in time?" Lisa asked. "Then we become very attractive ice sculptures. I'm told human features are quite striking when preserved at -200 degrees. One of the armored creatures emerged from behind the Krell swarm, its weapon charging. That made the decision for them. "Tommy, light them up!" Tommy shifted his aim to the ceiling and opened fire. The first pipe ruptured with an ear-splitting hiss, and instantly the air filled with freezing vapor. The temperature plummeted. The second pipe went next, then the third. The cargo bay became a frozen hellscape in seconds. "Go! Go! Go!" Marcus shouted. They ran. Behind them, Krell raiders and armored creatures alike were caught in the cryogenic blast. The moisture in the air crystallized instantly. The deck plating cracked under thermal shock. The hostiles that weren't immediately frozen solid found their movements slowing, their systems failing in the extreme cold. The four humans dove through the airlock just as one of the armored creatures, moving with desperate determination despite the cold, fired a final shot. The plasma bolt went wide, hitting the bulkhead controls instead of any of them. Manual override. Priya grabbed the emergency handle and wrenched it down. The bulkhead began to close, but slowly, too slowly. Through the narrowing gap, they could see one of the armored creatures still advancing, frost covering its armor. But its weapon systems somehow still functional. Marcus didn't think. He grabbed a maintenance tool from the wall, a heavy magnetic wrench, and threw it with everything he had. The wrench tumbled end over end through the freezing air and struck the creature's weapon just as it fired. The shot went wild, hitting another coolant pipe. The resulting explosion of supercooled gas finally stopped the creature's advance. The bulkhead sealed with a solid clunk. Silence. Beautiful, blessed silence. Sound off. Marcus gasped, his breath creating fog in the suddenly cold air of the airlock. Here. Leg hurts, but I'm alive. Tommy. Present and freezing. Priya. Alive. Low on ammunition. Also, I think I pulled something in my back. Lisa. Marcus checked his helmet display. 6 minutes remaining in the scenario. They had survived the horde, but the mission wasn't complete until the timer ran out. We need to find a defensible position and wait out the clock. Everyone still mobile? Tommy stood carefully, testing his injured leg. I can move. Won't be winning any races, but I can move. They advanced through the ship, clearing rooms methodically, finding only a few scattered Krell stragglers. The bulk of the hostile force had been in that cargo bay, and now they were decorative ice sculptures. After 5 minutes of careful searching, they found the ship's bridge, sealed it, and waited. The last minute ticked down in tense silence. 50 seconds. 40. 30. You know what the worst part is? Tommy said suddenly. Even after all that, Brekthar is probably going to find something to criticize. We breathed wrong. We didn't march in perfect formation while running for our lives. Something. Let him, Priya said. We completed the mission. 20 seconds. 10. The simulation dissolved around them. Marcus opened his eyes to find himself back in the pod, drenched in sweat, muscles aching from phantom exertion that his body absolutely believed had been real. The pod opened with a hiss, and he climbed out on shaky legs. His team emerged from their own pods, looking equally wrecked. Across the chamber, the other 8 human cadets stared at them with expressions somewhere between awe and horror. Instructor Brekthar stood in the center of the room, all 4 eyes fixed on them, his mandibles completely still. That was never a good sign. Well, Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. How did we do, sir? Brekthar was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost some of its earlier contempt. You completed the scenario. That is the good news. And the bad news? The bad news is that you completed it in a manner that violated approximately 17 safety protocols, caused catastrophic damage to a simulated vessel worth more than your planet's annual defense budget, and employed tactics that no rational species would ever consider viable. Tommy grinned, despite his exhaustion. But we did complete it, sir. Brekthar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. You were not supposed to complete it, Cadet Park. The scenario was designed to teach you about tactical withdrawal, about recognizing unwinnable situations, about making difficult command decisions under pressure. You were supposed to learn the value of retreat. Humans don't retreat, sir, Priya said quietly. We advance in different directions. That is idiotic, Brekthar countered. That is tactically unsound. That is exactly the kind of thinking that gets soldiers killed in real combat situations. Maybe, Marcus admitted, but it's also the kind of thinking that wins battles that should have been lost. Sir, respectfully, you told us we had potential but lacked discipline. I think what you meant is that we have discipline, just not the kind you recognize. Brekthar moved closer, his alien features unreadable. Explain. Marcus chose his words carefully. Every species you train comes from worlds where they evolved as apex predators, or under relatively stable conditions. They learned warfare as an art, a science. Humans evolved on a planet that tried very hard to kill us at every opportunity. We learned warfare as survival. When you put us in an impossible situation, our instinct isn't to calculate odds or follow doctrine. Our instinct is to find the flaw in the word impossible and exploit it. That is not discipline. That is chaos. No, sir. Lisa spoke up for the first time since exiting the pod. That's adaptation. You said yourself, humans are adaptable. We adapt to threats, to environments, to circumstances. We adapted to your scenario. The fact that we did it in a way you didn't anticipate doesn't make it wrong. It makes it human. Brekthar turned to his console and pulled up the simulation logs. The other cadets crowded around to see. The instructor's claws flew across the haptic interface, pulling up statistics, engagement records, tactical decisions. The simulation's artificial intelligence raised the difficulty level 4 times during your run, he said finally. That is unprecedented. Most intermediate teams face 1 escalation at most. The AI kept trying to create a failure condition, and you kept circumventing it through methods that violated its tactical prediction matrix. Is that bad? Tommy asked. I don't know, Brekthar admitted, and that honesty shocked every human in the room more than anything he had said previously. In 230 years, I have never seen anything like it. Your success rate should have been 3%. Instead, you achieved mission completion with all team members surviving. He turned back to face them, and his posture had changed subtly. Less aggressive, more thoughtful. I called humans unprepared, tragically inadequate. I may have been incorrect in that assessment. You are not unprepared. You are simply prepared for variables that my training did not account for. Marcus felt his chest swell with something that might have been pride. Does that mean? It means nothing is decided yet, Brekthar interrupted. Your squad mates still need to complete their runs. But I will be adjusting my evaluation criteria going forward. If the simulation cannot predict human behavior, then perhaps I should stop trying to make you behave like every other species, and instead determine how to integrate your particular brand of controlled insanity into actual combat doctrine. He gestured to the waiting cadets. Next team, prepare your pods. Let us see if Cadet Webb's squad was an anomaly or if this is a consistent human trait. If you all prove to be this recklessly effective, I will need to completely redesign my training program. As the next team moved toward their pods, Priya leaned toward Marcus and whispered, Did we just accidentally revolutionize alien military training? I think we just taught our instructor that impossible is a human starting point, not a stopping point. Marcus whispered back. Over the next several hours, the remaining human teams ran the simulation. Each one approached it differently. Each one found unique solutions to impossible problems. None of them retreated. One team used the ship's gravity generators to create localized fields that crushed the platers, hostiles. Another hacked the ship's internal communications to turn the Krell against the armored creatures. A third team actually managed to capture and reprogram one of the armored creatures to fight on their side. Brekthar watched each run with increasing fascination, his earlier contempt transforming into something that looked almost like respect. When the last team emerged victorious, having somehow convinced the simulation that they were also Krell raiders through a combination of stolen armor and complete tactical audacity, Brekthar called all 12 cadets to attention. "I owe you an apology," he said, words that no cadet had ever heard from him before. "I evaluated your species based on conventional metrics. Conventional metrics are meaningless when applied to a species that rewrites conventions as a survival strategy. You passed the intermediate scenario. All of you, with methodologies that will require me to publish entirely new tactical papers." He paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "But understand this. The real galaxy will not grade you on creativity. Real enemies will not pause while you improvise. Real combat will test not just your ability to adapt, but your ability to adapt quickly enough to survive. What you did today in simulation, you will need to do in seconds under actual fire." "We understand, sir," Marcus said for all of them. "Do you?" Brekthar's eyes focused intently on him. "Because I am no longer certain that I do. I have trained warriors for 2 centuries. I thought I understood combat, understood tactics, understood what makes an effective soldier. Then 12 humans entered my facility and demonstrated that everything I thought I knew had significant blind spots." He pulled up a holographic display showing Galactic Defense Initiative statistics. Human approval rating for advanced training is now 100%. Human tactical innovation rating is off the available scale. Human mission completion using unorthodox prowess methods is, and I quote the report, "frighteningly high. You are making other species nervous, and you have only been here 6 months." Tommy couldn't help himself. "Is that a compliment, sir?" "It is an observation, Cadet Park. Whether it becomes a compliment depends entirely on what you do with it." Brekthar looked at each of them in turn. "You will continue training. You will learn our methods, our doctrine, our strategies. Not to replace your instincts, but to supplement them. A human who combines your species' natural adaptability with formal tactical knowledge will be formidable. A squad of such humans will be devastating. An army of them." He trailed off, as if contemplating possibilities both exciting and terrifying. "Dismissed," he said finally. "Get food, get rest. Tomorrow we begin advanced combat scenarios. And before you ask, yes, I will be increasing the difficulty specifically for you. Consider it acknowledgement of your capabilities rather than punishment. You wanted to prove humans belong in the Galactic Defense Initiative. Congratulations! Now you get to prove you can survive what comes next." The cadets filed out, exhausted but energized. As Marcus passed through the doorway, Brekthar called out one last time, "Cadet Webb." Marcus turned back. "Sir? Your homeworld, Earth. Your people call it a death world, yes? A planet with extreme weather, aggressive wildlife, geological instability, and atmospheric conditions that most species would find barely survivable?" "That's accurate, sir." Brekthar's mandibles spread in what Marcus had learned was his species' version of a smile. "I think I am beginning to understand why. Your planet did not just create survivors. It created a species that looks at death and decides to argue with it. That may be the most dangerous thing about humans, not your adaptability, not your resilience, but your fundamental refusal to accept that anything is truly impossible." Marcus thought about that, then nodded slowly. "We prefer to think of it as optimism, sir. Call it what you will. Just try to keep that optimism from destroying my training facility. I still have other species to teach, and explaining to command why humans accidentally turned half my equipment into improvisational weapons would be deeply embarrassing." "No promises, sir." Brekthar's laugh, if that clicking sound could be called laughter, followed Marcus out into the corridor where his team waited. "What did he say?" Priya asked. "He said we argue with death, and it makes him nervous." "Sounds about right," Tommy agreed. "So, who's hungry?" Near-death experiences always make me want to eat everything in sight. As they walked toward the mess hall, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally shifted today. They had come to prove humans belonged among the stars. Instead, they had proven something more profound. That humanity's greatest strength was not in matching other species' expectations, but in exceeding them through methods nobody anticipated. The galaxy was about to learn what humans had known for thousands of years. Impossible just meant nobody had tried hard enough yet. And humans were very, very good at trying.